Hey guys, it's Kendra.
And this is Jessica. And you're listening to
Lucid Lab. We're really tired.
Oh, so sleepy.
We're dragging tail this morning. We're recording earlier than usual. And it's not that early. It's 10 a.m. But neither of us slept last night very well.
The tale of my life. I never sleep, but I'm extra tired this morning.
I stayed up late watching a movie with my kids. We watched the Heretic movie, which is kind of newer. I think it was at the theater not too long ago, and now it's on HBO Max. I really liked it.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater.
It's a good psychological horror, which is kind of my favorite genre of horror because it feels like something that could happen any day.
Yeah.
Like a crazy man taking, innocent girls into his house. It felt like a podcast episode.
And punishing them because he's God.
I won't give much more than that away.
Hugh Grant always plays a really good bad guy.
Yeah, he did. But before that, we went out yesterday.
Yeah. I went up towards her to see a house and I was like, let's get together. So we went to this place that she suggested. What was it called?
It's called Parkway Food Hall. I had not been there. It's been open for like a year in Longmont, and it was a really cool place.
Yeah.
It's a food hall. I think they're a really big, popular thing right now in all the big cities where you can go in and there's 6 to 8 different options of little food stalls, and then there's a big bar in the middle, and they were doing some events. Like they do trivia, which I want to go back for. They had a Twilight trivia. April 9th.
That would be cool.
We missed it. They have a Friends one coming up, but I don't know Friends very well.
They do a boozy bingo.
That would be fun to check out. Maybe win some money. And they do karaoke. So we'll be back for karaoke for sure.
And the food was amazing. The type of food and options you would want to see at a place like that, not just meh. Here's a burger. Stuff. Here's a taco.
It was all very gourmet.
Yes.
We ended up, when we went back, because I had already eaten earlier, I got one of the gelato pops.
Oh, you lucky.
Which were really, really good.
I really wanted that, but I kept eating my ginormous sandwich thing that I got.
We went back because while Jessica and I were there at the bar, we were talking to the workers, and they mentioned they were having a goat rave.
Yeah.
And so my kids came over and I was going to cook dinner for them. And I was like, instead we should go to this goat rave. So we went back and they had this DJ in there spinning techno house music and just goats everywhere. And they were pooping and peeing all over. And there were 2 people just following the goats around, sweeping up poo and pee. And I was like, that's not a job I'd want.
No. I asked her to send me a picture. And that was my first question. I was like, are they pooping?
Well, a lot of people do the goat yoga. And I think the same company putting on the rave does goat yoga. And that's what I had heard. One of my friends went to goat yoga and she was like, it's not what you think it would be because they peed all over my mat.
Oh,
it was just funny because these goats would just be walking and just pee following them all along.
They don't care.
I want to have no care in the world like that. Yeah. You just got to go. You got to go.
Exactly.
But it was fun.
I was a little jealous, but I had to finish up
what you had to write this episode.
I was doing for today. Yeah.
Today we're doing our second Under the Microscope episode. So this is one where we get to do some of the cases that maybe aren't long enough for a full episode, but aren't short enough for Lab Report's mini episode.
Yep.
And I will start with the case of Chandra Levy. So Chandra Levy had big dreams. She was 24 years old, and during her last year of earning her master's in public administration, she moved to Washington, D.C. for an exciting internship. Chandra had hopes of joining the FBI or heading to law school next, but those dreams would never be fulfilled. Instead, she would become yet another victim of violence. Chandra's death would become one of Washington, D.C.'s most infamous murder cases, and one that's never been definitively solved.
Her name is very familiar to me. I might recognize something as you're talking, but as of right now, nothing's coming to mind.
I'm guessing if I showed you a picture, you would probably recognize her.
Okay.
It was all over the news. In May of 2001, Chandra was supposed to fly back to California for her graduation ceremony to receive her official master's at the University of Southern California, but she never arrived on her scheduled flight, and her family would find out that Chandra had vanished without a trace. The investigation into her disappearance didn't seem to go anywhere in finding the culprit, but it did reveal that Chandra had been having an affair with Gary Condit, who was a married 53-year-old congressman from her hometown of Modesto, California. Her relationship with this man would become more of a focus than her murder investigation, and it would deter them finding out what really happened to her.
Because it's a scandal?
Yes, and it
Okay.
involved a congressman.
Right.
Chandra was born in Cleveland, Ohio on April 14th, 1977 to Robert and Susan Levy. At some point in her early childhood, the family moved to Modesto, California, where she attended Grace M. Davis High School. Her parents remember her as being individualistic, fun-loving, and sometimes bossy towards her younger brother, Adam. She was ambitious from a young age, already telling her parents and teachers that she had dreams of joining the FBI or becoming a lawyer when she was in elementary school.
I said that when I was in elementary school too.
I think I wanted to be a lawyer.
I wanted to be an FBI agent.
Yeah. I wanted to be an FBI agent after watching X-Files, which was probably junior high.
I honestly don't remember what made me want to.
Chandra attended San Francisco State University, where she earned a degree in journalism. After interning for the California Bureau of Secondary Education and working in the office of Los Angeles Mayor Richard Riordan, she began attending the University of Southern California to earn a master's degree in public administration. In October 2000, she got one step closer to living her dream when she landed a paid internship with the Federal Bureau of Prisons in Washington, D.C. as part of her master's program. She was working at the Bureau's headquarters and assigned to the Public Affairs Division. Her supervisor, Bureau spokesperson Dan Dunn, was impressed with Chandra's work, especially her handling of media inquiries regarding the upcoming execution of Timothy McVeigh, who was the Oklahoma City bomber. She hadn't been in town long when she crossed paths with Gary Condit. He was a married congressman from Modesto. Gary gave her and a friend a tour of the Capitol, and within weeks, Chandra was quietly telling people close to her that she'd started dating a congressman. She told her aunt, Linda Zamsky, over Thanksgiving that she'd started a relationship with a congressman in his 50s who looked like Harrison Ford. She's 24 and he's 53. Definitely
Does he look like Harrison Ford?
Not to me, really.
Okay.
Maybe he did in person. The pictures I've seen, I don't know.
We always twist things in our mind. Maybe there was a twinkle in his eye and that's what she pulled from like a movie, or he had a slight like grin to his smile that reminded her of Harrison
Maybe he
Ford.
talked like Harrison Ford.
Who knows?
But when you're young, I remember this just being in my 20s, older men in power, they just seem more attractive for whatever reason because they're confident, they have money, they're able to just come across in a different way, especially when she's trying to get into DC and this congressman was paying her attention.
Yeah,
And these men know what they're doing.
of course.
So that December, Chandra also mentioned the affair in an email that she sent to a friend. She said, "Everything else here in DC is going good. My man will be coming back here when Congress starts up again. Please don't tell." And then she mentioned a name of somebody who worked in Gary Condit's office, who I am seeing since she thinks that I am dating an FBI agent. There is all of these traces, and that's how they find out that she was having an affair, is after her death. They go back and find these emails and phone calls.
Okay.
But suddenly, Chandra's internship was abruptly terminated in April of 2001 because her academic eligibility was found to have expired in December 2000. It wasn't too big of a blow to her because she had already completed her master's degree requirements and she was planning to return to California in May anyways for graduation. She had planned to fly home and then just figure out her next steps since her internship ended earlier than planned. Before she flew back home, Chandra called her aunt again and left a message saying that she had something important to tell her, but her aunt would never learn what that something was. Just a few days later, on May 1st, 2001, Chandra Levy would disappear and never be seen alive again.
That must suck for that aunt.
I wonder what it was that she had to tell her. If it had anything to do with Gary or if it was something completely different. Maybe she
got a job and didn't tell anybody, or
she was planning a big trip or to adopt a dog. We don't know. It could have been anything.
Really, it could have.
It sounds like she was really close with her aunt because she told her aunt things that she wasn't telling her parents.
Oh, okay.
Like her parents didn't know about the affair.
Was her aunt younger? Maybe they just got along better.
Maybe, or sometimes you just are closer. I remember thinking that about some of my aunts. You just feel like they're more of a friend instead of your parents. You don't want to tell them anything. And sometimes the aunts are like cool. They're like, I won't tell your mom or your dad.
But if it's bad, they will tell your parents.
They will. They're still, looking out for you.
Yep.
So no one really knows what exactly happened on May 1st, the day that Chandra went missing. What we do know was reconstructed based on computer files that the police were able to recover during their investigation. And we'll go over that here in a minute. Chandra's parents were planning for her to return home and had been trying to contact her with no response. After 5 days, Bob Levy would call the DC police worried because he had not been able to reach his daughter, and they didn't really know anyone else that Chandra associated with. She was living across the country, and they just wanted someone to go do a welfare check on her. I can't imagine how concerning that would be as a parent. Your child is across the country. You can't get a hold of them. You don't know any of their friends or who they're hanging out with because it's just a short internship. It would be a very helpless feeling. I know I start freaking out if I don't hear from my kids in like a few hours. These days with cell phones, 5 days would be a long time.
Yes, it would be.
You never stop worrying,
I know.
even when they're grown.
Now that I have those AirTag things, I do have it hooked up for my mom to at least see where I was last, and I take them on walks and stuff.
Oh, so that's good.
Gave her some bit of peace. And I put one in her bag, and when she doesn't move for more than 10 hours, I call her. I'm like,
are you okay?
Are you okay?
I have my kids connected through because we share a cell phone plan, so I can see their location, like the iCloud or whatever. So
yeah, that's what I have for my daughter.
And they can see me too. So we're just share our locations, and it does give you a sense of like, peace. Police began calling hospitals, and then they visited Chandra's apartment in DuPont Circle, finding no indication of foul play. Chandra's mom, after speaking with her sister, the aunt that I mentioned earlier, she found out that Chandra was having an affair with Gary Condit, and she shared that with her husband. And at that point, the dad shared with the police that they should know she was having an affair with a married man.
Yeah.
Which is suspicious because we know married men kill their mistresses all the time.
Exactly.
So a few days later, on May 10th, the police obtained a search warrant to go into Chandra's apartment. Investigators found her credit cards, her driver's license. She did have a mobile phone, and it was left behind in the apartment inside of her purse. And then they also found partially packed suitcases, so she was obviously getting ready to leave town. The answering machine was full. This is back in the day when you still left messages. And there were many messages from her relatives, her aunt, her parents, and then there were 2 messages from Gary Condit. He seemed concerned about her whereabouts in the messages that he left. A police sergeant tried to examine Chandra's laptop computer and inadvertently corrupted the internet search data, as he was not a trained technician. This kind of makes me mad. Like, what were you doing, dude?
Yeah.
And how did you fuck that up? It's not that hard, but he did something.
I deleted the history. Crap.
Sorry, I guess it wasn't that important, right? Fortunately, with some work from an actual computer expert, they were eventually able to determine her last internet searches, but it took them over a month to reconstruct the damage from this like officer that was just in there farting around like on her laptop. I'm guessing, hopefully he was reprimanded for that.
Don't touch.
If you don't know what you're doing, don't do anything. That could have delayed them from finding her sooner.
Yeah.
It was a whole month. Remember, this is when cell phones didn't have internet. Like, you did everything on your laptop.
Right.
I have to remind some of our listeners, original cell phones literally were just a phone.
Yeah.
You just flipped open and you called on them. You didn't have a way to search. So if you wanted to look up directions or anywhere you were going, it would have been on your laptop. And that was the case. So she had used her laptop to search for websites related to Amtrak, Baskin-Robbins, Gary Condit's homepage, Southwest Airlines, and a weather report from the Washington Post. Her final search at 12:59 p.m. was for a region in France. Perhaps she was trying to plan a trip. There was one particular search that caught the attention of the investigators, and that was at 11:33 a.m. for information about Rock Creek Park. And she clicked a link to bring up a map of the park. Rock Creek Park is a 1,750-acre city park filled with hiking trails. Police speculated that she might have gone for a walk or a run in the park.
But you would leave absolutely everything in your apartment? Were the keys gone? Her apartment keys?
They didn't say that they found her keys, so I'm assuming. I think about like when I used to go to the gym back in the day. Like, you got to take yourself back to 2001. We had cell phones, but we weren't like as connected to them as we are today.
Yeah.
Like, I remember not taking my cell phone everywhere because it was just a phone. It wasn't like you were listening to music or watching movies or any of that.
Was this park within walking distance of where she was?
I'm not sure. I don't think that she drove. I think DC has public transportation.
Oh, okay.
And we don't really know. Actually, this leads into the next piece, is that the police were not able to obtain the security footage in Chandra's apartment. Most places replace their film so many days. They may keep it longer now because we have digital footprint, but back in these times, it had already been erased. So they never had any footage to show when she left the apartment, if she got in a car, if she went with somebody, anything.
Okay.
On July 25th, 3 DC police sergeants and 28 police cadets began searching along Glover Road in the park, but they did not find any evidence related to Chandra. And then they had a second attempt a few days later, and they still didn't find anything. Chandra's parents and friends held numerous prayer vigils and press conferences in an attempt to bring Chandra home. We didn't know where she was. She was missing. So maybe somebody kidnapped her. And so there was a lot going on around that. Meanwhile, the story about a DC intern who'd had an affair with a congressman and then disappeared catapulted the Chandra Levy case into the media extravaganza. Gary Condit at first denied that he had an affair with her, which was stupid. That made him look really guilty.
Yeah, he's trying to save what's left of his marriage right now.
Exactly. Police did state early on that Gary Condit was not a suspect, but Chandra's family said that they felt Gary was being evasive and possibly hiding information, which is true. Like, he probably didn't want to say how often he was meeting up with her. Or they mentioned also that this Rock Creek Park that she went to was very close to his house. So maybe they had plans that she was going to go for a run and then meet up with him afterwards or something. And he just didn't want that out there. Unidentified police sources leaked to the press that Gary Condit had admitted to an affair with Chandra during an interview with law enforcement officers on July 7th, 2001. Okay. This was like tabloid fodder back in the day. Gary did seem to know her pretty well, and he gave a description to the cops that she was a vegetarian and she never smoked cigarettes or drank alcohol.
Wow, that's commitment.
I know, especially living away from home and being in your 20s. Yep. But she was focused. She wanted to be an FBI agent.
She would have started drinking later.
Yeah, for sure. He was under the impression that Chandra was just going to go home to California for her graduation, and then she was going to move back to Washington, D.C. after so they could continue to date and be together. Okay. And he was surprised when the cops actually told Gary that she'd already ended the lease on her apartment. So she wasn't planning to come back.
Oh, okay.
One of the lead investigators in the case said that Gary Condit was initially not very helpful, but he doubted that he was responsible for her disappearance. He thought, what would be the motive in harming her? She was just someone he was having an affair with. And we'll find out, I think, here in a minute, that Gary was having lots of affairs. She wasn't the only one.
Okay. When you have so many interns to choose from.
Exactly. And I think that's why everybody focused and tried to make this like a big love affair, and like she got pregnant and then he killed her. Like, I remember all the stories, and it wasn't that way at all. Gary Condit was just a guy who couldn't keep it in his pants, and any cute young girl that he had a chance with, he took. That's who he was.
Sounds like a typical
congressman.
Yeah.
Gary adamantly denied harming or killing Chandra Levy. He said in an interview, "I've been married for 34 years.
And she lets me do this."
He's like, "I'm not a perfect man. I make my share of mistakes. But out of respect for my family and out of specific requests from the Levy family, I think it's best that I not get into those details about my relationship with Chandra."
That's just one of those stupid boys will be boys excuses.
Yes.
Would the same be okay for your wife? No.
And she probably knew. A lot of these political marriages are just for that.
Some of them do stay knowing very well what they do on the side because of the power and the money.
It's just part of being married to a man who's in a position of power or an entertainer of any type, or like sports guys. Like, these women just accept things that women married to just normal guys don't.
And like Melania, she doesn't care. She's like, as long as he's doing something else and it's not with me.
And I think some of them get to that point too. They're like, just give me my money. I'll go have my fun on the side too.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators did their due diligence and searched Gary Condit's apartment on July 10th. And they also questioned a flight attendant, Anne Marie Smith, who he was also having an affair with.
Did all these girls know that they were one of many?
I'm not sure. When they asked Anne Marie for an interview, she said that she didn't have to talk to them, and that Gary Condit told her that she had the right to keep details about her personal life and her relationship with Gary under wraps. They got upset that Gary was giving this information to this affair partner and potentially others, and they began investigating if they could file charges of obstruction of justice against Gary Condit.
What would his relationship with that other girl have to do with Chandra, though? Unless it was a jealousy thing, I guess. I mean, you have to follow every avenue.
They did find out in the interview that Anne-Marie did not know about Chandra. And so I think that was part of it. They're like, oh,
okay,
maybe she's saying she didn't know about Chandra, but what if she found out and there was this jealous love triangle?
Right. And she's a flight attendant. She could come in, kill her, and leave.
Exactly. Or Gary could have asked her to take care of Chandra or something because she was pregnant. I just remember something about her being secretly pregnant. And this was all before they found what happened to her. So there's a lot going on because it had already been 2 months and there's no trace of Chandra. There's no body found. There's no evidence of what could have happened to her. In a nationwide opinion poll on Fox News in July 2001, just 2 months after Chandra Levy went missing, there was a poll of 900 registered voters, and 44% of them thought that Gary Condit was involved in her disappearance, and 27% felt that he should resign.
Yeah.
51% of the respondents believe that he was acting as if he were guilty because he just didn't want to talk about it.
I mean, nobody wants their personal life blasted everywhere, especially when you're just a douchebag who, like you said, can't keep it in his pants.
Right. He was just a slime bag, but that doesn't make you a murderer, as we've said on many other cases. This became the story of the year. Everyone was talking about it. It was on every magazine, in the supermarket, every tabloid. And the only thing that really took the attention away was September 11th, 2001.
Yeah.
9/11 attack on the World Trade Center. That got everyone to stop thinking about Chandra Levy and if Gary Condit had something to do with her death. So that was kind of his reprieve as we were all focused on terrorism at that point. And,
right.
But before that, this was like everywhere.
As soon as you mentioned the congressman and affair thing, that's actually what popped into my head. Just that time in history around 9/11. So I think I do remember this story.
Once again,
I was just younger though. So like I said, like I wasn't watching TV as much back then.
Once again, this is a case of when a white girl goes missing. And there's any kind of just a little bit of scandal involved, like a married man, like this stuff blew up because it's great entertainment.
Yep.
Even though attention had gone away, 6 months later, on March 5th of 2002, Gary Condit did lose the Democratic primary election for his congressional seat, with the Chandra Levy controversy being cited as a contributing factor. He was also subpoenaed to appear on April 1st of 2002 before a D.C. grand jury who was still investigating the disappearance. But then on May 22nd, 2002, 1 year after Chandra had gone missing, just a few days before that grand jury was planning to meet, a man and his dog found human skeletal remains in Rock Creek Park.
Oh.
Although police had previously searched over half of the 1,754 acres main section of the park, the wooded slope where Chandra's remains were eventually found had not been searched.
Why would you only search the main part? It's not going to be in the main part.
Right. If somebody takes you off a trail, they're going to drag you somewhere.
Right.
Secluded to do horrible things.
So they didn't do their job.
They actually didn't. There's proof they didn't. So police commanders had ordered that the search perimeter should have been within 100 yards of each road and trail, but there was some kind of miscommunication and the officers only searched every road. So they didn't go off where all the trails were.
Okay.
And they would have found her if they had followed the original protocol. So that's
ridiculous.
Really frustrating.
Yes.
Now it's going to be hard to find out cause of death and everything like that. She's just a skeleton.
Oh my God.
The remains were found about 4 miles from Chandra's apartment, so she could have walked there.
Yeah.
Especially if she was going for a run. Dental records confirm that the remains belonged to Chandra Levy, but investigators only found a handful of other clues. They were able to recover a sports bra, her underwear, a sweatshirt, running shoes, a Sony Walkman, and, disturbingly, jogging pants with knots tied at the bottom. Investigators believe that the knotted pants could be evidence that Chandra was restrained before her death.
Oh, okay.
After a preliminary autopsy was performed, D.C. police announced that there was sufficient evidence to open a homicide investigation.
Yes.
On May 28th, they officially declared her death a homicide. And they made a statement that there's less to work with here than they would like, and it's possible they would never know specifically how she died. They did find damage to her hyoid bone.
Oh, she was choked.
Suggesting that she was possibly strangled. They did not deem it conclusive enough to rule that as her cause of death.
Okay.
That same day after she was declared a homicide victim, the family hosted a memorial service for Chandra at the Modesto Center Plaza. There were over 1,200 people that attended to listen to her brother, her grandmother, her aunt, her friends, her family speak about what a good person she was and how she had been taken much too soon. Just 1 week after her service, on June 6th, the police completed their search. They had been looking everywhere from where they found the skeletal remains, and private investigators hired by the Levy family actually found things that the police did not. They came across her shin bone with some twisted wire about 25 yards from where her original remains were found. Police chief said it is unacceptable that these items were not located during the police search. It just sounds like they weren't doing their job.
Yeah.
This definitely began to make many question how well this investigation had been carried out by the police. But after this, the police never identified a suspect, and the case would go cold until 2006, which is crazy because they did in fact have a very interesting suspect that they should have investigated more thoroughly, but for some unknown reason, they didn't take it seriously.
Just like they didn't take searching for her seriously.
Right. In September of 2001, which was only 4 months after Chandra went missing, the DC police and federal prosecutors had been contacted by the lawyer of an informant who was held in a DC jail, and he claimed to have knowledge of Chandra's killer. The informant, whose identity was protected for his safety, said that Ingmar Guandike, a 20-year-old undocumented immigrant from El Salvador who was also being held in jail, told him that Gary Condit had paid him $25,000 to kill Chandra Levy.
Oh, boy.
But investigators quickly ruled out this story about Gary because Ingmar had already admitted to assaulting 2 other women in the same park where Chandra's remains were found.
Oh, so he didn't need to be paid to do that.
Exactly. But they also found out during this investigation that Ingmar failed to show up for work on the day of Chandra's disappearance.
Oh.
And his former landlady recalled that his face appeared scratched and bruised around that time.
So he was just trying to get out from under going to prison for it in case they found evidence of him on her.
Yeah. Now, there had been other Rock Creek Park victims who had been attacked before Chandra but had not been killed, and the police didn't even interview those women. Ingmar would eventually be arrested for attack on those women, and they never connected the two, which is really elementary detective work in my mind.
What is this group of officers doing in DC?
Right.
Honestly.
And the police chief at the time avoided calling Ingmar a suspect and described him as just a person of interest, telling reporters not to make too big of a deal about him. They said if Ingmar had been considered a suspect, the police would have been after him like flies on honey.
No, because you guys aren't like flies on honey for anything that you're doing.
I wonder what they're doing. Like, and this was the biggest case ever,
and this is DC.
They had a big caseload. I don't know what their excuse was, but they did take this informant that had come forward about Ingmar on a polygraph test, and that informant failed. So maybe that's why they wrote it off. But they also did a polygraph test on Ingmar in February of 2002, and it returned inconclusive results, but they officially ruled them not deceptive. They said it was because neither the informant or Ingmar were fluent in English. It was their second language, so that could be why.
That could have been a big deal.
Ingmar was taken in and sentenced to 10 years in prison for his attacks on 2 other women by knife point at Rock Creek Park. And when they questioned the judge, her name was Judge Noelle Kramer, about why she didn't ever think that maybe Ingmar was connected to Chandra, who disappeared in the same park, she said, "This is such a satellite issue. To me, it doesn't have anything to do with this case."
What?
So I don't know. I know DC has a very high crime rate. So maybe they thought somebody attacking women for sexual assault does not mean that they would murder someone because they just have so many attacks all the time. And I'm not sure. I know it is one of the most dangerous places in our country as far as homicide rates and crime, violent crime is our capital. I wouldn't want to live there.
It's ironic.
It is. But nothing really got done. It was listed as a cold case until 2006 when Kathy, a woman, had to come in. Kathy Lanier succeeded Ramsey, who was the original DC police chief that didn't do shit. And Chief Lanier replaced the lead detective on the case with 3 veteran investigators who had more homicide experience. So maybe they just had people who weren't qualified on it before. And this led to them focusing on the past failures of the police to fully investigate Ingmar Guandike's connection to the attacks in Rock Creek Park and how they could have been related to what happened to Chandra.
He might not have even meant to kill her. It just went too far.
Maybe. Another one of Ingmar's cellmates had come forward at one point. They found out his name was Armando Morales, and he had told investigators that Ingmar had confessed to Chandra's murder as a robbery gone wrong. And he allegedly told this cellmate, homeboy, I killed that bitch, but I didn't rape her.
But I raped the other women.
Yeah.
I just wanted her Walkman.
He left it there, though.
Oh,
so
that's true.
That would have been the only thing she had on her worth anything. Maybe she had some money on her. We don't know.
Maybe she had a necklace or something.
That's possible. In September of 2008, investigators searched Ingmar's federal prison cell in California, and they found a photo of Chandra Levy that he had saved from a magazine.
Okay. He's about to scrapbook.
On March 3rd of 2009, the Superior Court of the District of Columbia issued an arrest warrant for Ingmar. 2 days later, Ingmar was charged in D.C. with Chandra Levy's murder.
Oh, okay.
He was indicted by a grand jury on 6 counts: kidnapping, first-degree murder committed during kidnapping, attempted first-degree sexual abuse, first-degree murder committed during a sexual offense, attempted robbery, and first-degree murder committed during a robbery. Ingmar pleaded not guilty at his arraignment, and then a trial date was set for January 27th of 2010. His lawyers argued that Ingmar's federal prison cell was outside of the jurisdiction of a court-ordered search. And then they were trying to process DNA, and it was somehow contaminated. And so the defense also used that as saying there was no conclusive evidence connecting Ingmar.
Maybe not. Anybody could have planted a picture in a cell. We know that shitty shit goes down in prisons all the time. But he was the one that was like, hey, I killed her for $25,000.
Yeah, he was. And he said it to 2 separate people.
Yeah. Had he not said any of that and they were just going after him, I would be thinking differently. But
right. So the trial began in October of 2010. Witnesses for the state included FBI agent Brad Garrett and the 2 women who had been attacked by Ingmar, Hallie Schilling and Christy Weigand, and they would testify about what happened while they had been jogging alone in Rock Creek Park. Christy recounted that he grabbed her from behind, dragged her down into a ravine, and held a knife against her face. On November 1st, Gary Condit testified at the trial and was asked on at least 3 occasions if he and Chandra had been involved in a sexual relationship. He replied with, I am not going to respond to that question out of privacy for myself and Chandra. But then the FBI investigator testified that there was semen found on underwear from Chandra's apartment that contained sperm matching Gary's DNA profile. Okay. I don't even know what that has to do with anything except for they just wanted to crucify this guy, and in turn they were also crucifying her in a way. It was making her look bad. I feel like the whole affair thing was muddled and there was no reason for it to be. They already had Ingmar. Like, why did they need Gary there to talk about his affair with her?
Right.
Armando Morales also testified on behalf of the state on what he had heard and what had been confessed to him by Ingmar. The prosecution rested their case on November 10th. They did drop 2 out of the 6 charges against Ingmar. They dropped sexual assault and murder associated with that assault because there was no proof that she had been sexually assaulted.
Just that they knew what he had done before.
Yes.
Okay.
5 days later, the defense rested their case, and they never called Ingmar to the stand to testify on his own behalf. Once again, English was not his first language. He was from El Salvador and probably wouldn't have helped him. They did call other cellmates of Ingmar's to the stand. One was named Jose Alanis, and he said that Ingmar made no mention of rape or murder while sharing a cell with both him and Armando at the penitentiary. So they were bringing him in to say that Armando made up this confession. He was like, I was there all the time with both of them. And Ingmar never said that. But dude, you're not with him all the time.
No, you're not. And he didn't trust you.
No. Now, the biggest thing that the defense had was that there was no DNA evidence connecting Ingmar to the crime scene, which is a problem.
It is.
If they had found her body within those first few weeks, they probably would have had DNA. She's a skeleton now.
Right.
And I don't know what happened to the clothes and everything that was laying in the woods for a year.
That's why I was saying maybe he suggested that Gary paid him because he was worried that they would find evidence, and they were really focused on Gary in the media.
Yeah.
So he saw his opportunity to like put his name in there, but then have a reason for why he would show up in that crime scene.
Now, the defense put together their own idea of what happened. They said the prosecution had put together a case of fiction and that Ingmar was innocent, and they believed that Chandra had been murdered elsewhere and then her dead body was dumped in the park. And they brought up that the only DNA found on Chandra, albeit a very small amount, did not match either Ingmar or Gary Condit. So they were saying there's another perpetrator that they hadn't found.
And that's very possible.
It is.
Because we have seen them go after undocumented people and make them the scapegoat, especially when they can't speak English. They can't defend themselves.
But this guy did, supposedly to 2 people, say he killed her.
I know. I'm just being the stupid devil's advocate every single time.
And I'm like going opposite because we just did Delphi murders. And I was like, he confessed 61 times and I still think he's innocent. And this guy confessed twice. And I'm like,
how we feel. That's it. You can only go off of what your intuition is telling you sometimes because there's not enough evidence.
No, there is enough reasonable doubt that you can't convict if there's not DNA and they can prove that there's another scenario that could have happened. I don't know. The jury began deliberations, and after 5 days on November 22nd of 2010, the jury did find Ingmar guilty of both remaining counts of first-degree murder. After the trial, a juror said the testimony of Armando Morales was decisive in reaching the verdict. The conviction was called a miracle for having been reached with only circumstantial evidence.
He did hurt girls.
I know. He was assaulting, so they're like, well, we should get him off the street anyways.
He should have had to do more time for what he did to those girls.
10 years, yeah.
They just do it again. I still don't understand why rape is not serious because they're repeat offenders. They literally prove that. Rapers are rapers.
I guess the one thing you could say in this case is that he didn't sexually assault her and his MO was sexual assault.
Well,
so maybe
we don't know that
him.
she wasn't sexually assaulted. She was bones.
That's true. They didn't find anything on the underwear, but I don't know that means anything because if they take your underwear off, they're not going to get anything on it, right? And then she, like you said, was a skeleton.
He could have made her take her underwear off. It doesn't mean anything.
Gladys Weatherspoon, who had represented Ingmar in the 2001 assault cases, stated that she was troubled by the jury's verdict. She said, I just think they were going to convict anyway, and they felt bad for the family, the mom who was sitting in the courtroom every day. So she felt like they just had a guy that fit the profile. And like we discussed on our last episode, they just want to close a case, especially a big case that's been open for now 9 years.
That's true.
On February 1st of 2011, Ingmar's attorneys requested a new trial on the grounds that the verdict had been improperly attained. Their 17-page filing claimed that the prosecutors had appealed to the emotions of the jury using references to facts, not actual evidence. The motion also alleged that one juror who did not take notes had breached the judge's instructions not to be influenced by another juror's notes.
But you guys are supposed to discuss. What the fuck do
They're just
notes
reaching here.
Have to do with anything?
The prosecution opposed a retrial, arguing that the issue regarding the notes was no more than a technicality that did not have a significant effect on the verdict, which I agree with. During the sentencing hearing on February 11th, Ingmar said to Chandra Levy's family, I am so sorry for what happened to your daughter, but I did not do it. He continued to insist on his innocence. Judge Gerald Fisher denied Ingmar's motion for retrial and handed down a sentence of 60 years in prison, stating that Ingmar will be a danger for some time because he's a sexual predator. And he has maintained his innocence in the years since the trial. Defense lawyers continued to fight for Ingmar, and in 2015, prosecutors agreed to a retrial for him due to the fact that Armando Morales, who had been the star witness, had hidden his history of working with law enforcement. There was enough evidence to show that Armando had lied in the past about other cases just to gain credibility with police, and that he was not a trustworthy confidant.
So he was a bootlicker.
Yes. Considering the majority of the case rested on the testimony given by Armando that Ingmar had confessed his guilt, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And the prosecution saw that as well. And then in another turn of events, before the trial began, a woman named Babs Prowler came forward and claimed that Armando Morales had been lying all along. It turned out that she had met Armando, learned about his time in prison, and started recording their conversations.
Oh, gosh.
Babs claimed that Armando eventually told her that he had lied about Ingmar confessing to killing Chandra.
But what was he earning with that one specifically?
To tell Babs or?
To tell anyone that to come up with that lie.
I think it was maybe it helped him get less sentencing for whatever he was in jail for. I'm not real sure a lot about Armando, but my guess is that he wanted to help crack one of the biggest cases in DC because then they would use him for other. With this coming out, the prosecution felt like they didn't have any other evidence to go back to trial with, and they basically called off and said, okay, we don't have anything to bring for the retrial. That means that the charges against him were dismissed.
Okay. You can't really argue against it because we can't, like the president of this country tries to do, not follow the law.
Exactly.
I mean, if you can't prove it, you can't prove it.
They had no evidence against him other than this confession. And if they have proof that this guy's lying from two people, that's enough. And I would want to be let go if I was in his shoes.
Yes.
And he's still saying he's innocent. He never said he was innocent of attacking those other women.
Well, that's why I still want him in jail, though.
I know. So in July of 2016, the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. announced that it could no longer prove the murder case against Ingmar Guandike beyond a reasonable doubt. And instead of trying him and keeping him here, what they did was they deported Ingmar back to El Salvador in 2017. And that makes Chandra Levy's murder unsolved.
Wow.
To this day. We don't know.
At least he's not here.
That's true. He's back in El Salvador, probably attacking women.
Scary. I don't know what to think about this. I don't think that Gary's involved.
No. A lot of people say, and this is, of course, there's Reddit threads and everything. A lot of the questions that are out there is, when did she leave her apartment? None of us know. Was she alone? Did somebody go with her? Had she planned to meet someone at the park? That was one of the theories because she was in journalism and the media attention. Somebody could have lured her out there.
Well, and this was like one of her last days there. She might have wanted to see someone one last time, someone that she knew.
Did she simply just go on a run? She did have a Walkman with her, so I think that's probably the most likely.
Right. Yes.
And it sounds like from everything I read is she was really big into fitness and staying in shape. And we still don't know if her killer was just a random person that saw the opportunity or if it was someone who knew her.
I get the feeling that it was a random person who saw the opportunity.
That's what I think if she was dragged down. I will also say the way that she was potentially killed, they think strangled, would be different than how Ingmar had assaulted his other two victims by knife point.
With a knife. That's true.
It did have a different profile to it. And knowing that women are attacked all the time while running solo or walking, and there's serial offenders that get away with this constantly, it's probably somebody who could still be out there today.
More than possible, which is so scary. In that park alone, we know of 2.
Yes.
When there's probably 10. But that's just scary because if you run that every single day and that's where you go running, knowing that there could be one of them in there. Like,
I would never. This is why I don't run. We can't just go out and enjoy our lives.
I hate it so much.
I will end my story with a quote from Susan, who is Chandra's mother. And she, in a 2021 interview, said, "Every morning I get up and I have the same old feeling of incompletion. Something's missing. For us, we just go through life as best we can. We're wounded. It's just like a limb is missing."
Yep.
These poor parents have no idea what happened to their daughter. And I don't know that we're ever going to know at this point. There's no leads. There's no DNA. It had been corrupted. The DNA that they did have, it didn't match Gary or Ingmar. This is suspect 0. This is just some random person, act of violence. I don't know what they intended, if they were trying to rob her, if they were trying to assault her. She may have been assaulted. We don't know. And poor Chandra is gone.
It's one of those deathbed things, unless someone confesses to someone else again, or something comes through in that way. We'll never know. Wow. Well, thank you.
Another family that will never have the answers, and that makes me very sad.
And it is very sad. She was about to graduate.
Her whole life was ahead of her. She was fulfilling her dreams.
Yep.
She got mixed up with some 50-year-old dude, but a lot of girls in their 20s unfortunately do that.
Yep. She had already stopped the lease on her apartment. Like, it seemed like she was moving on anyway.
Yes.
So, R.I.P., honey. Well, in this next story, it is very tragic and very scary, but there is, I don't want to say a happy ending. There is a happy ending. It's a story of just amazing survival, really.
Oh, okay. Like another Alison Botha style?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so buckle up, guys. This story is not as well known. I came upon a girl. This happened to be on TikTok.
Okay.
She is on there telling her story. And she is so brave. And a week ago, there was an episode released about her story on Evil Lives Here. It's a series. I watched it on Max. Not sure if you can see this specific episode anywhere other than on there right now. I know there are 17 seasons. There are different seasons available through different streaming services. So like, for instance, it's on Hulu, but not season 17. So wherever the current season is, you can see it.
Okay.
Evil Lives Here is a series with a different story every episode, highlighting real life stories of individuals who discover the dark secrets of someone close to them.
Oh.
This story is about Abbi Winters and Brian States. Abbi and Brian met when they were both 13 in 2014.
Okay.
They lived in Kansas City, Kansas, and both went to Mill Valley High School in Kansas City. They started walking home together, and that's how it started.
It sounds sweet right now.
At first, he was shy. Somehow he got her number, and he was like texting her from behind as they were walking home.
Oh.
And then the next day, he got the guts to talk to her or something, and she thought he was really charming. They really got along. They started dating. He was all about her, and they became official. Well, as official as you can be
At
as
13.
13-year-olds. But you'll see, it was pretty serious. She described the beginning of their relationship as him treating her like a princess, always giving her gifts, just always showing her that he only had eyes for her. And she was beautiful. She loved his energy. He was adventurous, a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, which is the guy you want to be dating in high school.
Yeah.
Nothing serious, right? As much as we don't want to think of young, what I would say are brand new teenage boys at 13.
Right.
As bad people, there were signs, even at their age, that he had a darker side.
Uh-oh.
He was jealous and controlling. She remembers walking home from school one day and her phone going off. She started texting someone and he got a peek and saw that she was texting another guy.
Uh-oh.
It was just a friend, but he yanked the phone from her and went through it and grabbed her arm so hard that he left bruises.
Oh.
He told her that she's not allowed to speak to any other boys at all.
That's crazy for that young of an age.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, that turned into him controlling everything about her, even what she wore. If he didn't like something, he would punish her in some way. But even at such a young age, he was the perfect narcissist.
Yeah, the love bombing, all of that.
Afterwards, he would always say he was sorry and try and make it up by buying her things or love bombing her. He would cry and tell her that she was all he had. At the time, she knew how he was being wasn't necessarily right, but it wasn't constant at first. It was this sort of slow burn of increased aggression and control. And at 13, you literally don't have any experience in the relationship department.
No, he tells you he loves you. Like, you just think this is love.
And when you're in love at that age, or you think you're in love, it's like everything to you.
All consuming.
And she did already love him. And she just wanted him to feel the same thing. She wanted to feel what she was giving to him to come back to her. And so she would put up with those times and look forward to the times when he was love bombing her. When you're in a narcissistic relationship, those are the times that you use to justify the bad behavior.
Right.
Because when it's good, it's good.
Yes, it's really good. They can be like the highest of the high, but then you have to deal with the lowest of the low instead of that balance that you have in like a good relationship.
Right, exactly. But it is those highs that we tell ourselves, well, they can be that way.
Right.
So why don't they choose to be that way all the time?
It's so dangerous. Coming from someone, and you too, both of us have dated narcissists, so we know.
But for Abbi, she was experiencing something no woman, young woman, especially a teenager, should ever have to experience. He became physically abusive early on. He was very insecure and always thought that she was cheating on him, talking to other guys, seeing other guys, and no matter what she said, he never believed her. He would throw things at her, hit her, just scream at her. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
For 13. It's crazy. And can you imagine if you knew your child was in an abusive relationship like this with another teenager?
I'd be all after that little boy.
It's sad to say, but it would make more sense if she was seeing an older guy
True.
that had no business being with her, but a kid her own age.
Yeah, you don't think about that with young dating.
No. She describes this time as something that just became normal to her. It was just part of her everyday life. She was frightened of him. Just little things would set him off. Tiny, inconsequential things.
Yeah.
But she kept this to herself. Her family did not know how bad it was. His family did not know. Both families approved of their relationship. I think they knew that there were some issues, but it's just teenage emotions.
Right.
They're having a little fight. whatever.
Yeah.
But people at her school did notice because there he isn't around family. He was more brazen in front of others at school. One day she went to school with bruises all over her legs. He had beaten her the night before over something stupid, and a teacher noticed the bruises.
Oh.
He had seen how Brian was with Abbi. He pulled her into his office and told her that he didn't like how Brian was with her, how he grabbed her, that it wasn't right, and she didn't know what to do. She was embarrassed. So she lied and protected him, and it just never came to anything. The teachers let it go.
Okay.
They didn't do anything about it. And looking back, she wishes that they would have reported it. She was a teenager and she was already stuck in this extremely abusive relationship that she didn't know how to get out of.
She had no idea. She was very vulnerable and nobody was helping her because they didn't know the depth of it.
And I'm not speaking for everyone. Like we just said, we've been in these emotionally abusive relationships with narcissistic men, but I was never in an abusive one. But
I was never physically abused.
Right. But I've heard enough women talk about it. Even though they're your abuser, you protect them. Even though they show you that they're never going to change, you think you can help them. Make them love you enough to see how badly they're hurting you. You just want to keep the peace. So you make yourself really small.
Right.
You walk on eggshells and hope that it's a good day. And that's what Abbi was doing from a very young age.
Poor thing.
She did not stand up for herself. She didn't fight back. She didn't talk back. Every day, she just became smaller and smaller so as not to bring the beast out of him. Even though soon that fun, outgoing guy she started dating, like he was just gone completely.
Uh-oh.
All that was left was the monster. But she still tried. She stayed with him until one day she realized that she was making herself small for a boy who did not follow the same rules he placed on her.
Oh, no. Was he cheating and such?
He was at her house one afternoon and he left his phone on the table and she saw that a girl had texted him and it said, "What time are we going to meet up later?"
It's always the ones that call you out for cheating that are cheating themselves.
Yep. After all he's put her through, emotionally and physically, which at first seemed to all stem from him being jealous and controlling, not wanting her to even acknowledge that there's other boys
right in the world,
on the planet. And here he is talking to someone else and meeting up with them. She was too scared to confront him in person, so she took a picture of the message and finished off her night with him and then texted him when he was gone.
Okay.
She told him that she saw the message, that he can't deny it, hide it, or delete it, and that she was done. Finally, she had something on him to get out of the relationship.
Yes.
And in that moment, it was very empowering for her. And remember, this is still a 13-year-old.
She's still 13 right now.
She's still 13
Okay.
right now. But that lasted all but 2 seconds because then he blackmailed her. He told her that they are not breaking up and that if she tries, he will print the nudes he has of her and post them all over the school.
Oh, I hate this guy.
He said he would destroy her. Abbi was a quiet, shy girl. The shame alone at being her age and having someone have nudes of you,
right?
It was deafening. She's
Yeah.
like, that can't happen. And she knew then, I'm never going to get away from him. She didn't want to get in trouble with her parents.
Right.
She knew she was stuck. She told him that he won and that she was sorry.
Wow.
And that's how things continued. And anytime he was horrible to her, he would turn it around and make her feel like she was the one to blame. She was bad to him. And that's why he treated her the way that he did. Same story, different couple.
Gaslight.
But these were kids. Like it's
crazy at
heartbreaking.
13. It sounds like, yeah, people you'd expect in their 20s or 30s.
Right. Eventually, because he broke her down so much, she truly, unfortunately, deeply fell in love with him.
Yeah.
In that heart aching, like, I can't breathe type of way. There was no bond like they had, she told herself. And she needed to be there for him. Yes, he hurt her, but she needed to help him because no one else could or would. And her love would eventually make him better.
Ugh.
So she justified the abuse more and more. And I don't know how this happened or why either of their parents allowed this, but while they were still in high school, they moved in together in an apartment.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then she really couldn't get away from it.
No.
At least at home, she had a physical break
Yeah.
from him, but living together, there was nothing stopping him. And that was the same when it came to sex.
Oh.
He was not an affectionate guy. He would not hold her hand. He didn't kiss her, but he wanted sex. That's how he showed any sort of affection toward her.
And was it rough sex?
Well, he wouldn't take no for an answer.
Okay.
When she didn't want to do it, it didn't matter. He took her anyway. As a teenager, what a fucking nightmare.
I can't imagine.
After one of the times that he raped her, she was done again. Like,
I can't do this. Yeah.
It took every bit of strength within her to stand up to him and tell him that he can't treat her like that. And I'm done. And he exploded. He started throwing things all around the apartment, screaming at her. And she grabbed what she could and ran out the door.
Okay.
And he ran after her and tried dragging her back into the apartment, but it caused such a commotion that a neighbor actually came to her defense and got between them very bravely.
Yeah.
And it gave Abbi enough time to run. So she went back home. Now, because this is a new story, there hasn't been a deep dive into this by anyone. Abbi only recently has started telling her story. There haven't been that many interviews. So I think eventually over the years, more will come out. Where I don't have the details is I'm not sure at what point her family knew about some of this.
Yeah.
Because she did go home. So I don't know if they just thought it was a breakup or what. But we do know that a lot of women in abusive situations don't tell anyone.
No, they hide it.
So it's possible that they had no idea. But of course, Brian wasn't going to let her go that easily. He started stalking her. Everywhere she went, he was there.
Oh my God.
He was emailing her constantly because she blocked him on social media. She blocked his number, but he still found a way. If she looked out of her window, he would be parked across the street staring at her.
Oh my God.
She was so afraid, but one day he really got to her again. He started talking about killing himself.
Oh God, Narcissist 101.
And he sent her a picture of him in the bathtub with razor blades. And when Abbi was 12, so not very long ago, she lost a friend to suicide. So it was something very serious for her. And he knew that.
He knew that to play on her feelings.
He used that. And she caved in and wanted to stop him from going through with it. So she went to him to make sure that he was okay.
No.
He cried and cried, saying that he can't be alive if they're not together.
Yep.
She tried to stand her ground and say, well, I can't do this. You can't be treating me like this. This is not the type of relationship I want to be in. He was just so sad. She felt bad. He made her feel that all of this was her fault.
Of course.
And that, you know, he's in this mental situation right now, about to kill himself because
she left
of
him.
her.
Yeah.
And of course, then he promised he would change. He would do better for her. And sadly, she believed him and she went back to him because she was determined to help him fight his inner demons.
We think we can fix them.
And like these guys do, he did keep that promise for a little while because that's the thing that comes in waves. And just long enough for Abbi to start to believe that they actually did have a future together.
Yep.
He was just going through a hard time. Teenage emotions, teenage angst, rage, whatever. Because he thought he had no one else, he would just take it on me. But things are finally changing. At some point, and I'm not sure, but I think they may have graduated school by now. But while on a family trip to South Padre Island, once he had her alone on the beach, he proposed to her.
No.
She was specific in mentioning that he waited until her family was not near them when he did this, maybe so that they couldn't intervene.
How old are they at this point?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of dates to go off of in this story, so I kind of just have to try and piece
They're
it
young,
together.
Though, I'm guessing. Yeah. Still.
I think they're out of high school now, so at least 18, 19. And for her, things were good at that point, so she said yes.
Okay.
But after coming back from their trip, not too far into their engagement, something happens. Abbi had an inkling that she might be pregnant.
Oh, no.
And she went and got a pregnancy test. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't expect it to be positive, but it was. And she was really excited. She was in shock, but she was happy because she wanted the baby.
Okay.
Brian heard her reacting to something in the other room, went to her and saw what she was holding. And she said he went cold.
Oh, shit.
Well, she said that he actually went blank. She had never seen his face look like that. He showed no emotion and he told her, I don't want to be a dad.
Oh.
And that crushed her. Being a mother is something she always wanted. They're about to get married.
Yeah, that's
you don't
a
want
big
a baby with me?
Deal.
He suggested that they get an abortion several times. She wouldn't. For Abbi, she thought that fatherhood would help him. She hoped it would change him. She did have a good pregnancy. She loved being pregnant. They had been living with her parents.
Yeah.
And she said for the most part, things were still good. Nothing crazy happened.
I was going to say you can't be as abusive when there's others around.
Bingo. And they were with her parents up until the point that their son was born in early 2021.
Okay.
They named him Styles, which is really cute.
Cute.
And this is just an annoyance of mine. The episode I mentioned that just aired, that Abbi is actually really proud of. It was a lot for her to do this because it is her talking. It says that her son was born in 2022, and that is incorrect. It just pisses me off that an aired TV series
Didn't get it right.
It's this very sensitive, tragic story, and you can't even put the correct year her son was born. It's infuriating. Anyway, everything seemed great. She was looking forward to their family being something strong and full of love. Sure, there were going to be hard times, but they're a family now.
Mm-hmm.
That happiness and hope only lasted through the car ride home from the hospital with the brand new baby.
Uh-oh.
It was not the beginning of a new loving family life together. It was the beginning of the end.
Oh, no.
Like I said, up until the time Abbi was induced, they had been living with Abbi's family. But the day they were released from the hospital, Brian moved them into a new place.
Oh, no.
The day of, away from her family.
That's not good.
And he immediately secluded her from them completely. He would not let anyone come over. No one could come see her or the baby. She said it took 5 months for her brother Mason just to meet her son.
He was like jealous of the attention from others, not towards him or something.
Who knows?
Control.
It's all about control. All of that, I'll change, I'll be better. It was all a ruse. It was just a show that he put on for others and to get her to marry him.
Yeah.
The moment that he had her in that home and isolated her, he became the monster again instantaneously, like the day she went home.
And she's still recovering from childbirth.
Yep, brand new baby. She had no one, no help with that infant. And she was being physically abused again, badly. He would never help with their son. He would never hold him. And I do know what this part is like. Like, she's alone. You need a shower. You have to get creative. The only way she could take a shower was to put the baby in a bouncer and put him right outside of the shower curtains and try to get clean real quick. Well, one day she was doing this and baby Styles started crying. Without thinking, she yelled for Brian to come help, and she said she knew instantaneously that she just made a huge mistake.
Oh, no.
Calling for him. With the baby still on the floor outside of the shower curtain, he ripped the curtain back in a rage, and he choked her.
Oh, my God.
In the shower. And he choked her until she passed out.
Damn.
When she came to, he was above her, screaming at her, telling her to wake up. The baby's still screaming. She woke up confused. She didn't know where she was at first, but once she was sitting up, the baby's still screaming, traumatized. He just walked away.
What an asshole.
Zero remorse. He just wanted to make sure that she was still alive. He didn't want to kill her yet.
No, he wanted to keep her to continue to beat on.
And then after that, she had to scramble out of the bathtub to console her baby like crazy. And she did the bravest thing she could after that because she was done. This time for good, though.
Good.
She needed to get her son out of there. It wasn't just about her safety anymore. It was her son's safety. And he clearly showed no love for his own flesh and blood.
No.
Soon it would be that little boy being abused. And she wasn't going to let that happen. I think he actually was already doing some things to the baby. I don't have all the details there.
Yeah.
So one day, she waited until he went to work and she called her family. She admitted the abuse that had been going on. She said, "I'm covered in bruises and I need help." And every single one of her family members, to what extent that is, I don't know. I know her mother, her father, her brother, maybe some other extended family members. They all showed up.
Good.
To help her get out of there before he came back. And he came back to a nearly empty home because nearly everything was hers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it is with narcissistic
Always.
guys too.
Yes.
You provide everything.
You do.
But she was done and she did not care. And now she had the support of her family, which she needed a long time ago.
Yes.
If only she had been brave enough to really tell them what was really happening.
And I'm sure her family felt absolutely awful that all this was going on.
Yeah.
And they had no idea.
Horrible. This was October of 2021 that she left.
Okay.
But isn't the law just wonderful sometimes? Because even though she was scared for her life and for the safety of her son, she was forced to share custody with him.
Oh, God.
In the beginning, it was required visitations, but then he fought for more time. And then he tried fighting for full custody at one point. He just wanted
to get back
to
at
control
her.
her.
Uh-huh.
She was terrified for Styles to be alone with him. But that was the law and she had to abide by it. And this went on for several months, which just in general is a lot of trauma overall. We both know, You know, we've had to deal with exes and children and that situation. Like, I'm jealous of the people that have the good relationships.
Yeah.
It's
not
hard.
common. I don't know of very many.
That's true.
Honestly, there's always somebody who's mad, feeling like they're getting slighted in some way.
Right.
Whether they are not seeing the child enough, or they have the child more than they want to, or they're jealous because the other partner is dating someone new. It's just...
There's always someone just super fucking spiteful.
Yes.
And they'll use their child
against you.
But despite all of that, she was still optimistic in life, and she did want love. She met a guy.
Uh-oh. He's going to get mad.
His name is Jordan Taylor, the complete opposite of Brian.
Good.
She had been with Brian for 8 years.
It's a long time.
She had never been with anyone else. She wanted to know that there are guys out there that aren't like him.
Yes.
So she decided to go onto Tinder and check it out and see if she really wanted to start dating. And she was matched with Jordan, and they just clicked instantly. And she started dating him in February of 2022. And it was unlike anything she had experienced. He was gentle with her. He would cuddle her. He would kiss her. All the things you want to do with a partner.
Right.
And they fell in love quickly. For 8 years, she only knew sex and assault. It was very eye-opening for her. He was supportive of what she was going through and that she had styles because they're a package deal. And unfortunately, so was dealing with Brian.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to see the photos of her during this time, specifically seeing her when she was truly happy because she is gorgeous. And you just see the relief of knowing that she wasn't in that house anymore with him, like on her face. She was glowing. But that was going to be short-lived. As you can imagine, Brian wasn't too happy to find out that Abbi was seeing someone.
Of course not. She's his in his mind forever.
So one day she gets a text from him. It's coming up on Styles' first birthday, and they were going to have a party for him, and he wanted her to see the cake pops that he had made.
Okay.
I'm guessing it was some kind of shared birthday party for him. She didn't want to go, but I guess the cake pops were a big piece of this party, and she did want to see how they turned out. So she went.
Uh-oh.
I know it's not a good reason to go over, so please don't get on her about this. It was a mistake, and it's a really hard pattern to break, having this blind faith in that someone's going to be good. They're on their best behavior.
Right.
Because you want to believe that. So she gets there, she sees the cake pops, and she turns around, and he grabs her by the hair, drags her to the room, and he violently rapes her.
Oh my God.
At the time, Styles was there. This happened with him in the home. When Brian was done, she ran out of the house, completely traumatized, but feeling so fucking guilty for having to leave her son there.
Yeah, because of custody arrangements. Sometimes you have to do that.
It was actually the next day that pickup was. So she had her mother go get Styles. She refused to go. And she promised herself and Jordan, you know, her new beau, that she would never, ever go there again.
Mm-hmm.
On another occasion, Brian smashed her car windows when he heard she had spent the night with Jordan. And not too long after that, Brian attacked Abbi at a park when she was with Jordan and Styles. Jordan called the police, and he was arrested.
Okay.
He was charged with domestic battery and child endangerment, and there was a court date set a few weeks later for May 3rd of 2022. Meanwhile, the state is still requiring this shared custody arrangement
I hate this
until
so
this
much.
court date, and Abbi is forced to give Styles to Brian. I don't know if they had like an every other week arrangement or whatever, but on May 2nd, 2022, Abbi couldn't wait to get Styles back from him because he had been with him for a week. On that day, Abbi texted Brian to drop Styles off at her mom's house. She drove over to her mom's expecting to see her son, but he was not there. She texted Brian, and he told her that his van door was broken, but he couldn't bring him, and that they would have to come get him.
Okay.
So together, her and her mom drive over to his house. She didn't want to go.
No.
But her mom was like, we have to go get him. Let's just go get him.
It'll be fine. We're together.
Right. She said she would never go over there again.
Right.
But she does need her son. Strangely, while they're on their way over there, Brian is texting Abby's mom, asking if Abbi was with her.
He's planning something.
She said yes, but then he wouldn't say anything after.
Okay.
They get there, and her mom gets out to go get Styles. Abbi stayed in the car, and she texted Jordan that she was sorry for being there. She woke up not feeling good about that day, and she knew she shouldn't be there. But as she was texting Jordan, she heard 2 shots. She looks up to see Brian behind a huge gun.
Oh, no.
She instinctively threw her hands up to try and cover her face, but the next bullet went through her open fingers and into her face.
Oh, my God.
Once Brian knew they were there and her mother had left the car, he ran out of the back with an AR-15.
Oh, my God. Like an assault rifle?
Yes.
He's coming at her with? What?
And he shot her 3 times through the glass car window.
Oh, my God.
I'll try and explain this all, but this is all happening in seconds. So
yeah. Like she didn't even know. She probably just heard the sound.
Exactly. She wasn't in pain. She just heard the noise. And she was aware that she got shot in the face, but she didn't feel it.
Okay.
At the time, she hadn't even realized that she had been shot in 2 other places
Just
as
body
well.
goes into protective mode.
She tried to put pressure on her face, but all she felt was a hole.
Oh my God.
And she, saw blood. And because she can't feel pain, immediately her concern went to her son.
Yes.
She didn't know if her son was alive in the house.
Right.
Her mom. Did he kill her son before they even got there?
Right.
She was panicking. Brian had already run away. At the same time, Abby's mom heard the shots.
Yeah. It'd be
And
loud.
she ran out of the apartment with Stiles in her arms, trying to cover like every bit of his little body with hers, trying to protect him because she doesn't know what just happened.
What's going on?
Abby could hear his cries. And because of that, she knew, I need to hang on. And she saw them running down the stairs to get to the car. This was a very emotional thing to watch and hear. Her mom, I can't imagine the panic
Seeing
to get
your
back
daughter?
to the car and seeing your daughter that way. It all happened so fast.
Yeah.
She was crying for her to stay awake, telling her, I can't live this life without you. But her mom knew she needed to get them out of there. So she quickly strapped Stiles into his car seat and she drove away from the apartments and parked somewhere else and called 911.
Okay.
The whole time just holding Abby's hand and trying to get her to stay awake, to fight, to stay, to breathe. And Stiles is crying and she's trying to say, it's okay, Stiles, it's okay. And I heard the 911 call and it's something else.
I bet.
Her mother was amazing. Her name is Jeanette, by the way. But just how she handled it was top notch. She made sure her baby and grandbaby were not going to die. So Abby was placed into a medicated coma and she underwent multiple surgeries to save her life. She woke up a week after this happened in the hospital. She was lightly restrained to the hospital bed. She was confused, of course. They had to restrain her because she had so many delicate tubes in her that if she yanked on them in like a moment of panic or confusion, it would have killed her.
Oh, wow.
And that reminds me of Alison Bota, actually.
Yes.
When she was shot, she never felt the pain. She said she was very alert before losing consciousness. But when she woke up,
oh my God,
all the pain hit her like a freight train. And that pain has never stopped. She is still in so much pain.
Poor thing. Oh my God.
She was shot in the face, the heart, and the lung.
Oh my God. I'm so glad she survived.
She did lose one eye.
Oh.
They could not save it. And this was very heartbreaking for her. She said it felt like the world was half as beautiful. And because he shot her through the car window glass, it exploded. So she was really shot in a lot of different places.
Yeah, the glass would have gone everywhere.
Her scans are pretty gnarly.
I bet.
Up to this point, she has had to have her heart repaired twice. Both lungs have had to be repaired. Both collapsed when she was shot.
Oh my God.
And to this day, she has repeated pneumonia issues, constantly being hospitalized for it. They took bone from her hips to try and restructure her face. She has had so many surgeries that she's lost count. When she woke up, it was very hard for her. First, being secured to the bed was traumatizing. It was an immediate PTSD, like from his abuse, not being able to see from one eye.
I can't imagine waking up that way.
The trauma of that. And she had a tracheotomy to help her breathe, so she couldn't talk to anybody.
Oh my God.
Which would have been just as scary. And it was sometime after that she learned what happened to Brian.
Okay.
Less than a minute after he shot her, he texted her phone. It said, "Oh my God, are you okay?"
What the fuck?
And I guess after not getting an immediate response or something, or maybe he just literally in the moment decided that's not going to get me anywhere. That's stupid.
Yeah.
He turned the gun on himself. One fatal shot.
Okay.
He's dead.
I'm glad he didn't choose to kill Stiles because many times in this, it's like a full murder-suicide of everyone.
Abby does think that was actually the plan, but her mother's quick thinking of getting them out of there, just in general.
Okay.
Even though she had been shot and needed attention, might have saved them.
I mean, he might have killed the baby and the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he was planning to kill himself, he had nothing to lose.
Exactly. And for Abby, with that, there's no justice.
No.
He didn't have to own up to anything he had done. The hell that he had put her through for 9 years, for forever changing her face.
Right.
For the years of pain she would have to endure, the countless surgeries still yet to come.
For the rest of her life.
For the rest of her life. The trauma and pain her son will grow up with, knowing what his father did to his mother.
Right.
The pain of not having a father.
Right.
Or not having a good one while he was here. She has chronic pain. She is never at peace. And that pain is a constant reminder of what she's been through.
That would be so hard.
She suffers heavily from PTSD. She was essentially bedridden for quite some time and is working on getting her strength back still. Today, she only has her son for half of the time because physically she is unable to take care of him. Her mother has him the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And that has been one of the hardest things for her. And just FYI, some of this comes from her TikToks. She said it was really hard when her mother had to ask her at the hospital while she was laying in the hospital bed if it was okay if she took Styles and took care of him.
Yes.
Because even after everything and knowing what condition she was in, she hadn't realized it yet. Oh my God, I won't be able to take care of my own baby.
I know.
And that was just crushing for her.
That's horrible during like the pivotal times.
Yeah. It's definitely been a hard road. She has been suffering for 3 years trying to start over. And amazingly, Jordan, he didn't go anywhere.
Oh.
He has stuck with her through everything.
Okay.
They are best friends. He is her love. And, you know, she doesn't look the same.
No.
That was something she had to come to terms with. But his care and love for her, it never faltered.
That's
he literally
amazing.
is stuck by her side. Just this guy.
They had barely been dating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Her family has been a massive support for her. And that's been everything to her because she is not out of the woods.
No, not for a long shot.
There are years of recovery in her future, and her body is still fighting to stay here. But she is here, and she survived, and she is so fucking brave.
Yes.
So brave for being so young. She's only 22.
And she's lived a lifetime already.
Yeah. She has a massive following on TikTok now where she talks about what happened. Her goal is to save one life.
Yes.
Get one person out of a situation like she was in before it's too late. And she talks a lot about her PTSD and the things that trigger her, and she's very honest about it. The one thing that bothers me is apparently Brian's family is not as kind about what she's been through, and they tried to cause drama and say that she had her part in it too. And I'm like, what?
Well, we know where he learned his narcissism.
Exactly.
Is all I'm going to say about that.
Mm-hmm. And their thing is, stop talking about it. We're grieving too. And she's like, fuck you. This is my life.
Yeah.
Do you
them.
see my face?
Yeah.
Like, this is what I have to deal with. Fuck you.
Yes.
One thing she said that just made me break down crying listening to is she's trying to get over being triggered by her own son.
Aww.
She loves him more than life itself, but she doesn't have him 24/7, and she gets panic attacks when she knows she's about to see him.
Okay.
Worried that she's not enough, but also because seeing him triggers one of the last memories that she had with him and his father, and she wants to erase that forever, and she can't. And it was the day that she went to go look at those cake pops.
Yes.
Because when Brian was raping her, her legs were hanging off the bed with her pants still partially on, and Styles came up and tugged on her pants.
Oh.
And it's just something that destroys her.
Yeah.
Every time. And there are a million little things that trigger her. She is committed to getting better in every way, but it's not something she can just move on from.
No, that's like an intense amount of trauma.
And the pain
and physical, yes,
reminds her of it every second. And when she looks in the mirror, it's literally impossible not to be reminded every single day.
Yeah, she's completely disfigured at this point.
Yeah. And she's learning to love what is her new face. And all the surgeries she has to have, you know, it takes time to heal. And just what they had to do to reconstruct her face it's amazing. A miracle,
right?
You know? And she's doing amazing things, and she deserves all of our support. Please go find her on TikTok and support her. You'll get a lot more details from her than I can give you. And you can just see her journey after the fact as well.
Yeah.
You'll see on her page a lot of tattoo stuff because on the side, she's a tattoo artist.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is cool. And she does it with one eye. And please know, I think this is what I find really amazing about her is she is really open with her struggles. And I'm not saying that because obviously she's going to struggle, but the one that got me is she knows her face is different, guys. It depresses her very often.
Right.
She's supposed to have her face.
Yes.
It was taken from her. Online, she has a lot of evil bullies.
Oh my God, fuck them.
Who are just so horrible. So my call to our listeners is to go show her some love. She's a beautiful human being and her healing is forever. And some days are really harder than others. So go attack those fucking trolls in her comments. Her handle is at snapbacks sand tattoos. All one word, no like hyphens or underscores. Snapbacks sand tattoos.
Okay.
And ladies, or anyone really, I know it's hard, but don't ignore red flags.
No.
Love is not meant to be hard. It is not meant to be one versus the other. It is not meant to be insult after insult, blaming, shaming, violence, threats. It's not.
Ever.
And if you're experiencing that, you can't change them while being with them.
We cannot fix anyone else.
And if you have kids and you're in an abusive relationship and you're staying for the kids, I want to play a quick video from Abbi responding to people on TikTok who have asked her a specific question. Here's her response, and I think it says enough.
Today, I want to talk about something that a lot of people have been asking me. A lot of people have asked me, do you think that Brian loved his son? And my answer to that is, you can't love your son and give him 2 black eyes and a concussion and lie about what happened. You can't love your son and take him in the car for 8 hours while you stalk his mom. You can't love your son and shoot his mom while he's there. You can't love your son and sexually assault his mom in front of him while he cries and holds her legs. You can't love your son and beat up his mom in front of him so he cries and he's afraid of you. You can't love your son and take them away from his mom just so that you can have leverage and she'll come home. He continuously put my son in danger. He continuously neglected his needs. He told me that he would not buy formula for my son. I had to breastfeed better when he was beating my ass the entire time. You don't produce breast milk if you're stressed or not eating or dehydrated. So he physically was going to let my son starve over his abuse. So that's my answer to the question is you can't love your son and hurt him repeatedly for your own selfish reasons. You can't do it. It's not the way that love is. I think maybe he loved the idea of being a proud dad. He loved the idea of getting attention because my son was beautiful. And his family can argue with me. They can message me.
That's one of many videos.
Yes.
But she says a lot of truthful things.
And she knows.
And she's been through it.
Yes. And she knows how hard it is to leave and that you want to see the good in them. You always want to go back to, the first part of the relationship when they were kind to you. All of that. I'm hoping that her tragedy is helping others leave these types of relationships and stop that vicious cycle.
Yes. I just want to end this by saying thank you, Abbi, for being who you are. I hope you hear this someday. You are and will undoubtedly save many lives for being so brave and for putting your story out there to let others know they're not alone.
No, it's all too common, unfortunately, in this world.
And you'll help people you won't even know you've helped. Mm-hmm. It could be someone in another country going through something similar, and they're going to see your story and find the strength to get out. Stiles is very lucky to have you as a mom. Mm-hmm. You saved his life and you protected him in more ways than you can ever imagine. So it's just a very tragic but inspiring story. And I just personally pray for Abbi that it does come a time when she's not in pain anymore.
I know.
I can't imagine living with that day in and day out.
Trying to heal from all of that is, unimaginable. And she shouldn't have to be. No. She did nothing wrong in this.
She walked away.
What do you do? Like, we hear people go after women for not leaving men. But when they leave the men, they're in even more danger because our system does not protect the women from these men.
Nope.
And when you have a baby or a child, doesn't matter the age, you have to interact with that person.
Yep.
And it's very easy for them to draw you back in, even when you think they're not going to be there. Or like Jessica and I have gone through it. We had to share kids with exes that weren't the greatest to deal with. It's tough. And I know it's easy to sit there and say, we just need to be very conscious of who we choose to partner up with. But these men hide. You don't know that they're bad until it's too late. And then they're obsessed with you. What do you do? When someone's obsessed with you, it's so hard to get out.
It's very scary. And even if you do get out and let's say they never abused you while you were with them, that still doesn't mean that they won't kill you. That's the scary part, is it could still escalate to that. Guns aren't abuse. No. Gun is a click, click.
And it happens so fast.
Yes, it does.
Something snaps in their head. That moment, they pull the trigger. Your life is changed forever if you still have a life.
It's wild.
Well, thanks for bringing Abbi's story to light and giving her more of a platform through our podcast so that others can hear her story and be inspired.
The only thing I will say is Brian was failed. He was so young. He was so young. If it had been recognized by adults in his life, who knows what he was going through at home? I know nothing about his life. He could have gotten help. He was only 13.
True.
I just want to put it out there because we are dealing with very young people here. But
yeah, we need to pay attention to those kinds of behaviors in boys and stop it when they're young.
And that's why I was saying to Abbi, not only did you save his physical life, your son, you may have saved him from becoming his father.
True.
So multiple generations affected with this one. Wild story. Keep following her story. It's still going. All right, that's it.
That's our stories for today.
Yeah.
And we thank you for joining us for our second Under the Microscope.
Yes. Thank you.
Before our next episode on Tuesday, please go on to your favorite podcast platform. And if you are not already subscribed, do so. And we would love for you to leave us a comment and or a rating, 5 stars, if you're enjoying listening to us.
Yes, thank you. And please. And if you have any stories, suggestions, or a silly joke you want to tell us, email us at lucidlabpodcast@gmail.com.
And in the meantime,
Stay lucid
bye.
and safe. Bye.